Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about variable scope in our functions in JavaScript. So this, at first, when you first start thinking about scope, it might be a little confusing, but basically, if you think about it simply as who can see your variables. Okay, so is it locked up in a security box or is it available to the entire world? Okay, so in some cases you might want to have your variables secure from other parts of the program, your data, and in other instances you might want your variables to be used anywhere in your program. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between local versus global variables. Okay, so for example, let's create a simple function called test local. And I've got my basic function syntax here. And I'm going to create a variable called number1. I'm going to assign it a value of 10. I'm going to create another variable called number2 and assign it number 20. Now, nothing too exciting going on here. We should probably do something with these variables. So I'm going to go ahead and say alert num1 plus num2. Now, how do I go ahead and actually run this? So if I save and run, nothing happens. Nothing happens because we have a function and we have no call to our function. So right now, this is just sitting here as a block of code, ready and willing to execute whenever you call it. So I'm going to go ahead and call it by calling the name of the function, and I'm not passing anything to it. There's nothing required to pass to it. So all I need to do is put the function name in order for my program to call this function and execute the code inside of it. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so I run it. I get an alert box here that says 30, which is indeed the num1 plus num2. Now, can I use those variables outside of this function? Let's go ahead and give it a try. So I'm going to basically write the same exact thing, num1 plus num2. I'm going to save it. I'm going to run it. Here is my first one. And that's all I get. Now, let me do something to kind of make this a little bit more noticeable. I'm just going to output the first number here. And that way we can know for sure which is coming from the function and which is coming from outside. So here I go. Now I'm getting my 10, which is coming from inside my function, but I have nothing else happening. Now you don't see any errors or anything like that. This is basically just ignoring this line of code and breaking. Let's see if I say hi there to see if I get to the next line of code. We'll test this. There's my 10, and I don't even get my hi there. So basically what's happening is it's breaking at this point, and everything from beyond there is not working. So again, debugging tip. If you end up, especially if you're using CodePen or something like that, and you end up with no information about why this isn't working, all you have to do is go to the last working line. So you know it called the function. So you know the problem has to be somewhere between these in this section. Okay, and a lot of times the problem is that the variable doesn't exist. So if I switch these, just change those, run it, I got 10, I got hi there. And so now another way is I could just comment out this and move this line. If I think it might be that problem, I can comment out the line of code that I think might be a problem. There's the 10 and there's the hi there. So I know that there is a problem with this. Now, the reason there's a problem is because I have created two local variables inside my function. And you know they're local because I used the word var. So when you include the word var inside your function, you are basically saying these variables are only valid, only exist inside this particular function. Anywhere outside cannot refer to them. Okay, so now let's basically do this whole thing again. Go ahead and copy it and paste it here. And now we're going to call test global. And let's put number 3 and number 4. So let's do a 6 and an 8. I'm going to alert for number 3, make sure that that's working. And then I'm going to call my test global. Okay, so that'll run that function. And then I want to alert num3 plus num4. Okay, but instead of making this local, I'm going to make this global. And the way I do that is I just don't use the var statement. Okay, so now I'm just saying num3 equals 6, num4 equals 8. So let's see what happens if I run this. Okay, so I'm still getting the test local 10 and high there. And then I'm in my function. I'm alerting my 6. And then I'm alerting 14. So here I'm outside of my function, and I have just alerted the variables 6 and 8, which is indeed 14. And then I get another high there. So that is an example of a global variable. Another way might be I can use a global variable and say something like num3 equals 10. So outside of it, okay, and let's see what happens. So I'm declaring number 3 outside of the function, and then I'm calling the function. What's going to happen to our number 3? Okay, so let's do something like this. Let's see what happens to number 3. So we'll alert number 3 at the beginning, and then we'll alert number 3 at the end of the function. And I'm going to take this out since we already know those are working. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this. So first we're going to go through a local with a 10. And now I've got another 10. I should have used something else. But what it's doing here is it's alerting our first number 3. And then it's going to alert 6. And then it's going to alert 14. So what does that tell us? Even though we're defining number 3 and setting it to 10 outside of the function, as soon as it gets inside the function, it's being changed. And it has forever changed outside of it. So let's make this a different number. Let's do 7. So it'll be a little easier for you to see. Okay, so we've got our 10, which is our local. Here's our 7. So number 3, when it first comes in, is a 7. The next line changes it to a 6, and that is the alert of the 6. And so 6 plus 8, it's going to alert that on the outside is 14. And we continue having the number 3 be 6. So that is the difference between a local and a global variable. And it's very important that when you're writing your functions, if your variables are not calculating the way you want them to, or your program isn't working because you're referencing a variable outside of a function, go back and just double check, did you define it as local or did you define it as a global variable? So a number defined anywhere outside of a function can be defined using var, and it can be used inside a function or outside of a function. So as long as you're not sitting inside of a function and using the word var, your variable will have global scope. Okay? If you're using var inside of a function, it will define that only as local scope. If you are wanting to create a global variable inside of a function, you just don't use the word var, and like our examples, you can access that both inside and outside of the function. So let's go ahead and do a code challenge. So we're going to create a local variable called secret num and set it to a value of your choice. Output the value in an alert box within your function, then try to output the value of the secret num outside of the function, and what happens. So go ahead and pause, create a new code pen, and go ahead and and play with a variable called secret num and look at the difference between your local variable and whether that will work outside of the function. And I will meet you right back here in a few minutes. Okay, welcome back from our code challenge. So you should have created something along the lines of my activity here. I've created a function called hide num, and I've created a local variable by using the var secret num equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've alerted my secret number is and output that. I've called my function hide num, so as soon as I do that, it will alert my secret number. And then I am attempting to go ahead and create another alert outside of the function that says, shh, I told you my secret number is. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So here is my inside the function, my secret number, and nothing happens outside of the function. Again, because we have created a local variable. So the next code challenge is to modify this program so that it will work both inside the function and outside the function using a global variable. So what would we need to do to change this? Go ahead and pause, and it's very, very simple change. You only have to make one slight change and this should work. Have you guessed it? Correct. You just need to remove the word var from our function. Save, and let's run. There is my secret number, and here it is again. Shh, I told you my secret number. If you got that right, hopefully you got a good grasp on global versus local variables. When you start working with some more complex functions, this should give you a heads up on that. Thank you.